Hi everyone, welcome back. We're going to take Dimir Flash 2.0 to the standard ladder. Alright, and we have found one of those Yorion decks that we are targeting. We don't have the optimal start here. We don't have either the Octopus or a turn 1 play, but this is definitely good enough to keep. The Slitherwisp is a nice engine in and of itself. Alright, and we actually picked up an Octopus. It's not at its best in our current hand, but it's certainly welcome. In terms of Tail's End, we don't have any counter magic at all right now, so I am going to keep that. And at the very least, we can potentially pick off a Planeswalker with it, or a Yorion. But I do also really like having the ability to counter the Shark Typhoon cycle. It gives us the leeway to attack in with something like the Cutthroat without worrying about it getting picked off. Now, one thing we will have to be careful about is making sure we're not leaving ourselves open for a Teferi, for example, to come down. So we may have to hold off on an attack on our next turn anyway. But let's see what our opponent's up to. Alright, so we can start trying to establish a little bit of pressure here. So as it stands, they can make a 1/1 Shark. So the question is, what is the downside of us attacking? If we attack and they make the 1/1 Shark, we can either choose to bounce it with the Brazen Borrower, Tail's End it, or just allow it to trade for the Cutthroat. It does feel like they are very likely to make that play, and as a result, I'm going to pass on the 2 points of damage here and just give ourselves the most possible options going into the next turn. So we'll see if that read was accurate, and there it is. There is the 1/1 Shark right on cue. But now we can sit back with Tail's End up for something more impactful. We also have the option of bouncing something, or potentially getting a Slitherwisp going. Looks like they might be struggling with some of their lands. I'm not sure if their mana is giving them trouble as well, but they did just hit their 4th land drop. And no play. So it feels like they are about to again cycle a Shark Typhoon. So knowing that, would we rather Slitherwisp or Sea Dasher Octopus here? I think we want to get the Slitherwisp train going. Both of them present quite a threat to the opponent. They do need to respond to either one of them. But I like the fact that Slitherwisp can generate value without us needing to attack. And again, if we suspect that another Shark Typhoon is about to be cycled here, we may want to be able to rely on non-attack damage. So we have a couple interesting options. We can attack with both. They cycle and make a 2/2 Shark, and we bounce it. I actually like that quite a bit, because that does leave Tail's End up for our next turn. I'm not going to go full greed and flash in the Octopus until we are sure that they are not cycling to make a 2/2 Shark. But yeah, I do suspect that the Shark Typhoon is about to hit the graveyard. There it is. So let's go ahead and just bounce this token. Ooh, I suppose we could wait. Although, no. Let's do it now. I don't see a way that waiting sets us up to blow them out, so we'll just get rid of it before they're able to save the damage. And now we could be super greedy and try to draw a card here, but I think having Tail's End up is really important, so I am going to hold off on that. If in fact we don't need to use Tail's End this turn. Oh, okay. So they have fires here. Let's see what the follow-up is. It's going to say, if we don't need to use the Tail's End, we could flash in the Octopus at the end of the turn. Alright, and they may be stuck on 4 mana. We were kind of suspecting that they were struggling to hit land drops. So we'll see if they have a good follow-up. They do have a 5th land, and maybe debating playing Yorion or not, as often you want to play Yorion on a turn where you get to play another card before picking up Fires of Invention, so you can really get maximum value. I guess it also really depends on what they have. They are going to play it, so we are going to counter it here. And now we need to try to put a lot of pressure on them to finish the game off before they can take advantage of this Fires of Invention. Okay, so these are certainly critical turns. I'm thinking that the play is to Slitherwisp pre-attacks and then flash in the Octopus onto whichever creature goes unblocked. So we're getting double Slitherwisp card draw and drain. Seems to me to give us the best chance of winning. Let's go ahead and swing in. And we'll flash the Octopus onto the Slitherwisp. And we just need to survive a single additional turn. We'll put the Octopus underneath. One thing to keep in mind is if there is the opportunity to avoid exposing yourself to Elspeth Conquers Death by putting the Octopus underneath, for example, a Cutthroat or a Spectral Sailor or a Stonecoil Serpent, you often do want to make that play. So yeah, unless the opponent is able to deal with our threats here, we should be able to pick up game 1 against the Yorion deck. Yeah, and a Birth of Meletus should not be enough. Certainly if that is the play, I think we're in great shape. All right, and it looks like we are going to pick up game 1 here. Let's go ahead and crack in for lethal. Alright, and because our deck is really intended to target these Yorion decks, there's not a whole lot that we need to change going into sideboarding. I do want to bring in the 2 additional Mystical Disputes. And in terms of what we're cutting, I think 2 Brazen Borrowers can go, as there's not a ton of things that we need to be bouncing out of their deck. Now, the other card I would strongly consider is a Duress. Many of their important cards are non-creature cards. So the ability to take a Fires out of their hand or a Teferi seems pretty relevant. I just need to make sure that we have other cards that we can afford to get rid of in order to make the Duresses work. So 2 cards that I'm considering are the Quenches, as they don't function particularly well once Fires has come down, as well as the other 2 Brazen Borrowers, because for the aforementioned reason, we're not really bouncing a whole lot. I think I am going to cut the last 2 Brazen Borrowers and bring in 2 Duresses. This makes Slitherwisp a little bit worse, but being able to pick off, like I said, a Teferi or a Fires early on in the game can be enough to set us up for the win. Okay, and unfortunately, this 1-lander is not good enough to keep. We don't have an opt. If we did have an opt, I would keep it. That's certainly plenty of opportunities to find a 2nd land. But as it stands, this is too likely to result in a non-game. So when we get the chance, we're going to go ahead and throw this one back. Alright, so we'll mulligan. And yeah, this is much better. We actually have the Dream Start of Stonecoil Serpent into Sea Dasher Octopus. And we even have a counterspell to back it up afterward. So this is definitely a keep. The one card we are worried about is Teferi. But because the Stonecoil Serpent has protection from multicolored, it's a little bit less of an issue as it would be against many other hands. So we'll keep. And I think we get rid of one of the Brineborn Cutthroats here. It's unlikely that we're going to be able to take full advantage of both of them. Alright, so let's get our Stonecoil Serpent down. Cletus is okay. Alright, let's go ahead and establish our 3/3 trampling card drawer. And yeah, now we do need to establish one more threat, as the wall will do a nice job of holding off the octopus. But we have the Brineborn Cutthroat and some counter magic as a way to establish another thing our opponent will need to eventually deal with. I see no reason not to attack. I expect them to block fully, but it's not like they have a haste creature that is going to crack back at us. So might as well at least attempt to get the card draw in. And here we're looking to resolve Brineborn Cutthroat at the end of their turn. And then hopefully Mystical Dispute whatever they play. So an early cycling of the Shark Typhoon sometimes indicates some mana troubles, but it could just mean that they have their turns for the next few turns accounted for. And yeah, they are debating what to play here. The good news is we've got pretty much everything covered. We can even potentially Quench plus Mystical Dispute if we need to. Although there's a good chance, if it's not Teferi, we get greedy and just go for Cutthroat into Dispute. Teferi would probably be the exception just because, oh, a Mythos, yeah. So certainly we are going to play out the Brineborn Cutthroat and dispute the Mythos. So now we can actually start getting through 3 points of damage each turn. And we have lots more counter magic to back ourselves up with. We will need to find a black source to unlock the rest of our hand. Alright, so let's see what our opponent decides to go for here. This feels like it might be a Lukka. You can see Lukka attempting to blink the token and grab an Agent of Treachery. If this is a Lukka, we have a slightly interesting decision as to whether or not we'd like to Quench it or Mystical Dispute. Fascinating. So they didn't do anything. So to me now, let's shock here. That says that they want to make a Shark token. Let's go ahead and check out the opponent's hand. Alright, so they do have both the Lukka and the Shark Typhoon. We are definitely right about both of those reads. I think here we're just picking off Shark Typhoon because it allows us to get our attacks in, and then we can counter whatever they attempt to do on the next turn. So yeah, let's get rid of the Shark Typhoon. No token for them. And keep punching through our 3 damage a turn. And if they play another land first, alright, so they're just going for Lukka. Now, we know they have Narset. Our best chance of being able to counter Narset is Mystical Dispute if they don't hit another land. So I'm tempted to use the Quench here as it's losing value rapidly. So let's go ahead and Quench Lukka. And so they do have the additional land. They are likely to resolve a Narset this turn. We're going to put them down to 7 here. One thing we can consider is actually Mystical Dispute on Narset anyway, just because that forces them to tap out. And it grows our Cutthroat, allowing us to knock them down even farther. Alright, so it does feel like they have potentially drawn another Shark Typhoon. I don't know that there's a good way for us to play around that. I'm hoping they're just going... Well, they can't Solar Flare here. So this feels like they certainly drew the Shark Typhoon. They're going to cycle it and make a 4/4 Shark, which could trade with the Cutthroat. Is that okay, is the real question. I don't think so. I think we allow them to make the 4/4 and we hold up our counter magic, and then we try to grow the Cutthroat to a size that we can actually attack past that Shark token. So there it is. Tail's End at some point here would have been nice. We also have Brazen Borrower as an out to be able to bounce the Shark token. But yeah, the plan is to Mystical Dispute and Mystical Dispute some more, growing the Cutthroat and keeping the board as empty as possible on their side. If we unlock another black mana, we can also attempt to drain them out with the Slitherwisp. Alright, so we're going to counter the Elspeth Sun's Nemesis here. And it's an interesting card to bring in. Obviously, it fights against our counter magic a little bit because they can escape it from the yard, so it does help with that. So now we have the opportunity to scry at the end of their turn, potentially, although we're very likely to need to Mystical Dispute. So we're going to pass this turn again here, and Mystical Dispute what they play to make our Cutthroat larger, and then we can profitably attack with it on the following turn. And yeah, that Solar Flare is the one that gives me the most pause, as that can potentially put them out of range. It cannot deal with the Octopus. Okay, they're going for an Narset. As I mentioned, we're going to dispute this because that does force them to tap out. And now we can profitably attack in with the Cutthroat.
Focused and disciplined. Meditate.
They are likely to trade off, or I should say jump block. Alright, and they found a way to clear the board. So now it's getting really tricky. A little bit late on the Tail's End, unfortunately. So the question is, do we attack them or Narset? It feels like attacking them is the most productive, as that gives us more Slitherwisp outs as well. Obviously the downside is we are allowing them to draw more cards. Alright, so just actually throwing the wall in front makes a lot of sense. Alright, so they've got a lot of options here. They do have to be worried about our counter magic. I'm not going to Tail's End the activation of Narset, and we're lucky enough that they whiffed. So we'll see if they opt for a Shatter here. They might attack and then Shatter. In which case we can try to scry into another black source, maybe, for the Slitherwisp. Alright, so they're just going to Shatter first. In that case, I want to make sure I know what card I'm drawing, so let's set this up. Alright, Castle Locthwain is very much a welcome sight. Do we also want Opt? I believe we do. So we'll take both of those. Now obviously we would have to Opt or Castle on their turn, but now we can try to set up something with the Slitherwisp. Go ahead and pass it back. Yep, and Omen of the Sea, certainly not something that we can do anything about, and even if we could, not worth countering. Alright, so very likely we are going to resolve a Slitherwisp and then either Tail's End or Opt. Okay, so we have to Tail's End first. Don't want Fairy to hit the board. And if we can establish double Slitherwisp, there is a chance for us potentially to deal the last bit of damage just by playing out some flash creatures. Hopefully we can get in for 3 here on the ground. Let's go ahead and Opt and draw our card. Stone Coil Serpent does have protection from multicolored, which means that the Solar Flare can't deal with it. We can make it quite large. Yorion can't deal with it, and it does have Trample. This is a very close call. I think because we're likely to play out Slitherwisp next, I actually really just want to find another flash creature here as a way to potentially end the game on the spot. Alright, Duress is not it, but oh man, we are so close. Okay, so if we attack them, and then duress away the solar flare, we have the potential to drain them out. If we attack Narset, we can play Slitherwisp to draw an additional card, but then they get to solar flare themselves kind of out of range. Ah, this is very, very difficult. So we can attack the Narset down. Yeah, I like this the best. So we're going to get rid of Narset. We can duress them, and then we can draw a card off Castle Lock. Oh, we can't. We can only scry. So if we Slitherwisp right now and we draw a Swamp, we do get to duress away the Solar Flare. We don't have very many untapped black sources in the deck, though. So I'm a little tempted to try to pressure them by getting rid of Solar Flare currently, and then scrying into a flash creature. So let's go ahead and make that play. It doesn't feel like a great use of our mana, but I think it's something that we are forced to do. Alright, so they also have several Elspeth Conquers Deaths. Oh, so Solar Blaze, not Solar Flare. I was thinking it was a different card and they were going to be gaining some life. Alright. Let's go ahead and take one of the Elspeth Conquer's Deaths here and hold up our untapped mana. And we'll see what our opponent opts to do. They are 1 mana short currently of playing the Agent of Treachery and stealing the Slitherwisp. So, end of turn, if we can scry into potentially a Spectral Sailor, that could be a really nice draw, as we can set up some cheap card draw and life drain on the opponent. Alright, so they are just going to opt to wipe the board there. Let's go ahead and scry. Alright, so there's the Spectral Sailor and a negate. We want to draw the negate first. And then we can, on this turn, Slitherwisp and negate. And on the following turn, we can play the other Slitherwisp and the Spectral Sailor. So Omen of the Sea is fine. It'll be interesting. I don't think they would go for Agent on one of our lands. That is certainly a possibility, however. I think it's far more likely that they attempt to establish Yorion, or perhaps bring Elspeth back. We shall see. Yeah, what I'm most afraid of is truly that they agent a land, but we can still recover from that. Alright, so here is Yorion. Guess we let this resolve. I mean, not that we can stop it from resolving, but I think we play the Slitherwisp at the end of their turn, after they've already chosen the cards they are drawing. The downside is if they find Mystical Disputes. It is very important that we can... Oh, okay. So actually, it does not matter unless they find exactly 2 Mystical Disputes. We're still in just fine shape. But yeah, this is a difficult match to navigate for sure. Getting these last few points of damage in is not going to be easy. We're going to have to play as carefully as possible to do so. And they've accumulated a nice amount of card advantage over there, so we cannot allow the game to go for too much longer. Alright, let's get our first Slitherwisp down. Okay, and I actually think it's worth it to main phase this Slitherwisp. Partially because if we hit a land, we want to be able to play that out. So let's go ahead and scry here. Ooh, the octopus is very interesting. It represents additional damage and card draw. So I think it is correct to leave this on top. And yeah, so we are planning now to Spectral Sailor and negate something that they play. Obviously, if it is exactly Agent of Treachery, we cannot negate it, but we can drain them for 4 life without anything else happening. Okay, so let's go ahead and negate the Shatter here. It's very important that the Slitherwisp survive. And then end of turn, we can flash in the Sailor, and then hopefully that plus the Octopus should lead us to victory. Alright, and we've got lots of opportunities to draw cards here. We can also attack with everybody. Let's dash this in first, I believe. Go ahead and dash it onto the Sailor here. And we just need to find one more flash creature to clean this up. Neutralize does not do it, but the Sailor is. And yeah, that is going to be the game. A difficult one to navigate, but we were able to find a way to get that last little bit of damage in. Ooh, Omen of the Sun would stop us, but Neutralize is going to have the final word. And by stop us, I mean potentially delay us. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that demonstration of Dimir Flash 2.0. If you'd like to see more videos like this, consider a like and subscribe below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.